Oh, hey, welcome to the shop. Look what I just built.
Well, you saw in my condo remodel video that chair was being used as a nightstand. Well, like I promised, it got replaced.
I had a couple different things in mind when I built this. One of my goals was, if you're a beginning woodworker, you could easily make this nightstand. Wouldn't require a bunch of different tools. What you will need is table saw and or a track saw, miter saw, and a Craig tool. That's not good for the bit. Or a pocket hole cutter of some sort. Don't have to have every one of these. If you don't have a table saw, track saw is going to work just fine. And you're going to need a drawer lock bit. Now the design is pretty specific here. I used one sheet of walnut so that I could continue the grain. And it all matches. You'll see that the grain goes from here, matches onto these drawers match in the grain this way, and then it continues around this way. Now the first thing we did, we made the legs.
And we cut the legs out of some 5/4 or 1.25" walnut, made 4 pairs, put some packing tape between the different pairs so they wouldn't stick together when we glued it all up in my fancy clamp. And if you haven't seen the video on this clamp, check the link up above. Anyhow, we glued it all together and then let it sit overnight. And the next night we went ahead and knocked it out of the clamps.
So we got our legs all ready to go. Now if you've been watching my channel for any time at all, in the past I cut these to dimension on the table saw because I didn't have a planer. But that's changed.
I had to do a friend a favor. He was moving, so he was selling this. And it had this bag that works kind of slick. You attach it to the trash can and supposedly it blows all the dust in there. Or the sawdust, and this thing makes some sawdust. Can't believe I didn't ever have one of these. Came out so smooth, saved me so much time. And the bag on the trash can, yeah, that didn't work. Squared them up, cut them to length, put them on the bandsaw with my taper jig, and put about a 1/2 inch, 4 inch long taper in 2 different directions. Got out my 1/8 inch round over bead on my router, rounded all the edges, and then of course you always get to come back and sand. Get all the saw marks out.
Second thing we did, made these side panels.
Now we cut everything out of one piece since we want to match the grain. And we cut the right panel, and then we cut the piece for the drawers. And then when we got that done, we cut the left panel. And then cut the height of all the drawers. And made sure that they grain matched when we were done.
I'd like to pause for a minute to answer a question. People often ask me, what kind of pocket hole cutter is that? And where do I get it? First, it's an old porter cable pocket cutter. And you can't get it anymore. I got this, remember that show called New Yankee Workshop? Norm was using it, I had to have it. A lot of the times I'll just use this when I only have 1 or 2 pocket holes to cut. When I'm doing a lot of pocket holes, I like to use this. The difference between this and this, the angle is a lot steeper. The porter cable actually has 2 routers. First router, when you push the handle like this, comes up and makes the pocket. The second router has a drill bit in it. Then when you pull it back, just puts a pilot hole in it.
I have no idea what this piece is. Oh, it's the wrong piece. So let's put pocket holes in this. So these aren't going to be structural, they're just going to hold them in place while I go ahead and build the panel. These pieces will be structural. When I built the panel, I laid a 1/2 inch piece of plywood down and then put the leg up against the panel and just put these in place to make sure I had the right reveal and screwed it off. Now these pieces here are going to be structural, and they're going to hold the drawer guides and the panel that goes inside, as well as the exterior panel. And the inside gets a 1/4 inch pre-finished birch. Make it nice and pretty. And there's one done.
And then next, we had to make these frames for the drawers to slide on.
So I cut some parts, and that's going to be the bottom. And we have to band everything that's going to be exposed, like the frame parts, the face of the bottom. And all the drawers are going to get banded all 4 sides, so it looks like a solid piece. Little trim, little clip, and little sand. Looks like a solid piece.
And eventually, we had to put it all together.
So instead of measuring, I always use blocks to get my spacing. And no different here, I used a block to hold it off the face to keep the reveal we needed for the top stretcher and for the bottom piece as well. Used the actual drawers to give me an idea where I needed the frames to go. And I actually used a tape measure from time to time and screwed everything in place. Same spacer block technique, make sure I got everything where it belonged. And got happy with some pocket screws. Use this little block to make sure that the frames were the right distance from each other. Same with the second one, just screwed them off. And then use a 3/4 inch back to help it square.
Once the frames were made and put in place, made the drawers.
To make sure it was square, took some measurements. And I always cut everything to width first because the drawer lock bit likes to do a lot of tear out. This is that drawer lock bit, goes in my router table. And I have a video on drawers, but the faces in the back go flat. And using the same settings, you just feed the sides through, standing up. It actually makes a really nice, clean joint. And it's a fast joint. Once all the joinery is done, I go ahead and rip it down to the heights or widths. And I put a 1/4 inch dado, 1/2 inch from the bottom. On the backs of the drawers, I'm going to go ahead and cut that dado off. And that way I can just slide the drawer bottom in after the drawer's all put together. That helps square it up. And it makes for a really strong, stable drawer. And that's a really strong joint. Go ahead and ease over all the edges. And of course, got to sand. When the sanding's all done, it's time to apply a little bit of finish. I put just a regular natural oil finish on the walnut just to bring out a little depth and not to really give it any color. And then I'll let this dry overnight and I'll shoot some clear finish on it.
What I like to do before I spray all my finish is I set everything up knowing that I have a place for it to sit and dry. The order I choose has to do with the one that I want finished the best so it doesn't have any extra overspray on it, and that's going to be this.
Now here's the top, and I didn't show you how I made that because it's just a temporary, because I've got a piece of granite that's actually going to be the finished piece. And that's up to the creative director, as well as all the hardware. This is just a water-based clear. Usually I like to shoot conversion varnish on it, but it'll get a couple coats, sand in between coats, and it'll be nice and smooth and beautiful, just like that. Now it's time to go ahead and mount the drawers. So working from the back, I put the drawers in, and I made these 1/2-inch maple guides that I put in from the back. I hold them tight, and then I screw them off. These make nice little runners that'll keep the drawer square as it slides in and out. And I go ahead and I turn around and I work from the front and get the guides where they need to be, and go ahead and screw them off if I could fit inside. Then I started just tacking them, and then I would come back later and screw them off. So I mark all the drawers where the bottom left corner is, so I know which order to put them in to keep the grain matched. Shim it off, put a clamp in there, and this is the screw that I use to hold the drawer face, just a drawer face screw, and screw them off one at a time. Go all the way to the top. And don't lock your screw gun in there, but they slide well. Ready to go. Oh, wait a minute, let's put the top on. I use that block to get my reveal, and this is just a temporary top. It still looks pretty good. And to finish it up, put the back on.
There it is, all done and complete. This bad boy is heavy, and this nightstand is ready for use. Hey, if you get a chance, subscribe to the channel and watch those videos right there. See you real soon.